we want to talk about something that's out there on the internet that is maybe not 100% true, help our audience kind of debunk some of the information they get. Unfortunately, there's a lot of great information on the internet, and there's a lot of bad stuff too. So specifically today, we're going to talk about Grant Cardone. He is seemingly everywhere on the internet. He's very popular, so we'll give him that. He's done a great job of, building his brand, and he promises his viewers or his followers riches through real estate. But he has a very different stance than what we've talked about today. So we talked a lot about diversification, and he has different views on that. So we can talk about some of the things that he shares with his followers, and maybe talk about why we would steer them in a different direction. So first, one of the things that Grant Cardone says to his followers is rich people should put all their eggs in one basket and then protect that basket. So, Mike, Chris, how do we feel about that?
I'm just kind of visualizing.
And actually, I forgot to mention one thing. This is Chris's term. This is the shiny object whack-a-mole segment. Because it's exactly what it is sometimes. It's a shiny object that's been represented to them, but maybe not 100% accurate. So we can talk about that first one, putting all your eggs in one basket, essentially.
Yeah, I'm just like envisioning real estate investors, trying to put everything into an Easter egg basket, running around in the yard like, no, this is mine. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. I think a lot of these things start off where there's like a hint of truth, or like something that's a hint that makes sense in whatever, the TikTokers or whatever are putting out there. And then he just goes wildly crazy, or they just take it way too far. And I think this is probably one of those instances. Like it's good to invest in real estate, right? It is a market that continually goes up. If you look through the history of the US and the world, like it's one of those assets that it does what it's supposed to do. It appreciates, it creates income, it definitely generates wealth. But I think to just do real estate solely, I don't know. Most of the families we work with are trying to always find ways to diversify. Warren Buffett certainly diversify. So I don't know.
And he seems to know what he's doing.
Yeah,
So,
I would guess that.
yeah.
No, I think that's the more accurate statement, but that's not going to grab headlines as opposed to buy all real estate all the time and then somehow protect that whole industry and the economy somehow with your real estate shield or whatever you're running around to protect that egg. But no, to your point,
Easter egg basket. A
younger Mike Mazzoni graduated college a little bit, ready to take on the world, a lot more hair, was ready to rock and roll. And this was pre-meltdown, so I had the ability to buy a substantial, way beyond my means piece of real estate with, a pay stub from my first job out of college. So I'm a huge proponent of buying real estate. I probably, added to the meltdown in 2008, but, it was right. The guys were great. So I'm a huge proponent of it. There's very few chances where someone can get an appreciating asset, borrow a bunch of money from the bank.
As long as you're breathing.
As long as you got a pulse, you can get a bunch of money in the bank at the time. But that being said, we've seen ebbs and flows, and you need to diversify your risk away from that. I don't know. I mean, maybe he could expand on how you protect a whole market share, but in that case, like it's a great asset. It's a great income tax asset we just talked about, but the inability to control what you can control and another, huge crushing crash of the market, you're going to want to have assets protected first and foremost. We'll talk about what we have talked about, protecting that real estate asset and your other assets. But more importantly, finding a barbell to your real estate assets that are also asset protected and insulated from a real estate crash.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we talk about diversification, not just us, everybody in there, or for the most part, everybody in the financial planning space talks about diversification for that exact reason. I mean, you can't predict the future, what's going to happen. And there's so much change happening all the time. And not having that, you're just setting yourself up for exposure. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day. So another thing he shares with his followers is don't buy a house, so essentially rent, but invest that money in real estate.
It seems kind of backwards, right?
Yeah, so that's another very counterintuitive one to me, because obviously if you're bullish on the real estate market, if we put all our eggs in one basket, why would I pay someone else for the right to stay in that piece of real estate if I could afford to own it, have the great income tax attributes that come with home personal ownership,
right?
As well as, ride that appreciation up and down and borrow the same way that I assume he's suggesting when you're buying rental units and those type of items as well.
Yeah, it just seems like something somebody who owns a bunch of rental properties would want people to do.
Yeah.
You know, it's just pay me the rent. Let me go ahead and build up my portfolio that I clearly own. You just keep paying me. Don't worry about owning yourself. Just seems counterintuitive. Yeah.
And I don't know about other parts of the world, but here, Dallas, Texas, the rent is outrageous, right? Rents are outrageous. It's almost more expensive than owning a home at points. So that's why, to me as well, it seems counterintuitive. So lastly, we have on here, don't invest in smaller unit properties. Only invest in mega properties with hundreds of units.
Like shopping malls? No. The example though, right? Shopping malls, invest in shopping malls. It's not a housing
go to the
unit,
shopping mall anymore.
Nobody goes anymore, but that's kind of the point. Like, you know, again, you don't know the ebb and flow of what market's going to do year in, year out. I mean, you know, again, going to that idea of diversification, it's important to diversify in other asset classes. You're going to have more liquidity than real estate, but you probably shouldn't just go strictly into, you know, high rises and, you know, that kind of stuff.
I think he takes a portion of your money and then he puts it into these mega properties, but I'm thinking you have no control over that, you know? So maybe, and what if you don't have the assets to be able to go buy mega properties and you need to start off small? How many business owners do we not know and have worked with that aren't a Rich's story? You know, they really started from the bottom, had a little money, bought a property, and then rolled it up into other options and opportunities. So
absolutely. Like, yeah, if you have the means to, you know, get into a certain syndicate where you have that type of asset, you know, the Class A asset in, you know, Manhattan, well, fantastic. But how could you say that, but also go rent property, you know, somewhere else? Those are kind of counterintuitive in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we talked a lot about the control factor, right? If you are going into a fund or something where you're paying a ton of management fees, and secondarily, you have no control over liquidity or what's happening on that real estate. And it's, you know, again, you get a lot of shock value making blank statements like there's a right time, a right place, right asset allocation to a larger portfolio of, you know, larger units. But by and large, you know, those investors who are thoughtful about buying, you know, B and C class real estate and 3 and 4 flats in, you know, up and coming markets, they'd probably beg to differ versus giving someone your money and just, you know, crossing your fingers, hoping that they're doing really well in a very high end market.
Absolutely. I mean, I guess in summary, if you're hearing something out there from somebody, it sounds too good to be true, first of all. And it's so pointed in one direction. It's generally not the best piece of advice. Maybe do a little bit more research on why is that their stance? What's the benefit to them at the end of the day?
That's exactly it. It's this
direct
advice,
you,
or is this advertising, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Like, what is this person getting out of it? And if he happens to own a huge real estate, you know, a retail or real estate thing, and say, hey, why don't you rent and take all that access and give me the cash?
Yeah.
There's probably it's not unbiased.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. Maybe some less biased advice.